What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through today's massive 14-game slate. 14 games means no pleasantries, Mike. I don't care how you're doing. We got to get to it. We got to get quickly so I can get back to projections work. So let's kick it off. Let's start with Boston and Philadelphia. Derek White listed probable but not at shoot-around. He's been absent due to personal reasons. You broke the news that they were celebrating on the show before. Al Horford, will he be getting the start against Joel Embiid? What are your thoughts on the Celtics rotation tonight?
Yeah, so I was just digging around. I think he had his baby on Saturday, so he's missed some time still with the family. Everybody's doing good, so it seems like he's gonna be back. Reporting that he should show up. Not at shoot around's a little concerning considering we had that probable downgrade, but yeah, matchup wise, right? We know that they've been starting Derek White pretty much every game they've had him, or I think every game they've had him. But there was commentary from Joe Mazzulla saying, basically, don't ask me about starting lineup. We're going to have, I think he said like 10 or 15 different ones. He was kind of jokingly said it. So, yeah, Horford, right? They used a lot of Grant Williams and Horford on Embiid last year. I think that kind of makes sense to me. So I think they're going to start Horford, give White an off-bench role, especially not a shoot-around. I think that makes a bunch of sense. This is a hashtag biggest game of the year situation. So could be really strong minutes for these guys. Boston coming off their first loss of the season. But yeah, this rotation could be real tight.
We have a very honored guest in chat. Appreciate Adam Lefko.
Oh, let's go Lefko.
Much appreciated. Appreciate your work. Thank you for tuning in. Let's move on to the 76ers side of things. Any new notes there? It sounds like Nicholas Batum is going to be available at this point. What are your notes on the Sixers rotation?
Yeah, he got a lot of run in the last game, somewhat surprisingly. It looked like Rocco was out there first. We saw Rocco kind of run in the first game they had him, and he took on the Kevin Durant assignment. According to Nick Nurse, he wasn't supposed to play him, but he wanted to get some size on Durant. But yeah, we saw Batum play 17 minutes, was really locked into this role. This is not like a garbage time thing. He was in the rotation. So I think he's ahead. Matchup, right? Obviously Tatum and Durant, little similarities, certainly not identical, but big scoring wings. So I think we should see a bit of Rocco here. Who was, not in the rotation last time. But obviously, again, biggest game of the season. We could see 40s out of Maxey. We could see 38, 39 out of Embiid. We know that these teams really want to beat each other.
Yeah, I drop a little alpha before we move to the next game. I dropped some seasonal future stuff on Philadelphia this morning on Caesars. I got them at 18-1 to have best record in the NBA and 16-1 to win the play-in tournament. Both those numbers seemed off to me. They should be like closer to 8 to 10 to 1. So shop around if you see stuff out there like that. I was thinking maybe I should wait till after tonight because maybe they take a loss tonight and it looks worse. Mm-hmm. But just generally, like if they win tonight, I think those odds would shoot kind of up. I think people are sleeping on Philadelphia. They have a lot of ammo to add a piece if they need to as well after this Harden trade.
Have you grinded their schedule at all? They're
no.
I guess okay. That'd be super grinding. It'd be really impressive.
Yeah. I've not had the time. Let's move to the Utah side of things with Utah and Indiana tonight. Walker Kessler listed doubtful here. We've been looking for some reasons to clear out minutes for Utah for Walker Kessler. Unfortunately, this is clearing his minutes out most likely. What are your expectations here? Kelly Olynyk has been the backup, but does this open up more of a ceiling for John Collins as well? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to open up some big minutes. We'll see if they bring some out. Fontecchio in the rotation has been out. They've been running some 3-guard stuff that they've kind of got away from. So, but yeah, without digging into the minutia, or as Silva would say, minutiae, I think this is going to be a really, really good spot for John Collins. A+ matchup. Indy has the worst rim defense of the year. We've seen him run some center minutes with those 3 guards next to Lauri Markkanen. So those guys are really, really in good spots. Lauri hasn't been attacking as much. His off-ball shooting stuff's way up this year, and kind of why he broke out last year is because he was so good on ball. So curious if that changes, maybe with a clearer lane. But yeah, these bigs are in really good spots. Obviously, Kelly Olynyk will benefit in a huge way. He should have a good shot at mid-20s minutes. And maybe they run it tighter. But this is, game 9. We've been waiting for game 10. Will Hardy had mentioned in the preseason they're going to look at this starting lineup over a 10-game sample. So they kind of need this one against a really, really bad defense and a really good offense, Indy first in offense. So, but yeah, this is a really good spot to attack with 2 terrible defenses.
Yep. Indie side of things, I think, is pretty clean, so we can move
Yeah.
on from there. Wizards and Hornets. Another, this slate is actually wonderful in terms of the
Yeah.
quality of basketball games. There's a lot of opponents that are matched that are kind of similar levels, and so I wish I don't have enough TVs to watch all the games.
Mhm.
But Washington and Charlotte, this is a good opportunity for Washington to play in kind of a more competitive environment. They've had a tough start to the season, but also a little bit of a tough schedule. They played Philadelphia. They've played some of the higher echelon teams. What are your expectations here for a Wizards team if they're not in a blowout? Like, what would we see from the Wizards in a competitive game environment?
Yeah, we've seen some pretty strong minutes. We've seen Denny Avdija play kind of upperish teens when he's not in foul trouble in tight games. Kuzma at times has been trending for upper 30s before, a couple spots. So we could see pretty big minutes. And again, this is so good from a game environment standpoint regarding pace for players with 27 minutes or game per more. Jordan Poole, number 1, Kyle Kuzma, number 2, LaMelo Ball, number 3. So this could just be a freaking crazy shootout. Could see tighter rotations. We already took a Bilal Coulibaly under because I think these starters could get a little bit more run here. They certainly need this game with how poorly they've been playing. There was a comment from Wes Unseld saying that he really liked how Eugene Omoyuri played, and he's like really been a coach's guy. We've seen a lot of coaches just really like this dude for playing hard and hitting the glass and playing multiple defensive schemes. So that's another reason why I kind of like our Coulibaly bet.
Yeah.
But this is it. This is the spot. I covered Boyd LaMelo. We'll get to him, but yeah, if you want to add anything on the Wizards, go for it. But yeah, this is by far their best opportunity to put up big lines of the year.
Agreed. And the one thing I'd note there on Omiori is while it might impact Koulibaly, I think it would be a more direct impact with Gallinari. I think there's a chance that Gallinari could end up kind of losing those backup center minutes. They need some size just generally. We'll see if they participate in the buyout market later in the season or whatever to just get some veteran centers in the building. But they're small. Shout out to Daniel Gafford last game, by the way. They got blown out by Philadelphia. He got worked on the defensive end by Embiid, but he stayed out of foul trouble largely. Like 30 minutes for Gafford in that game is an impressive feat for the struggles that he's had. And he got off to a great start in that game with a bunch of blocks in the first quarter. Let's move to the Charlotte side of things. So Terry Rozier listed out a very weird, questionable tag that he got on the second night of a back-to-back last game. We took advantage of it by betting into a PJ Washington over. As a result of it, we were very, very confident. If you were playing over the weekend, we had Rozier out all day long. We don't do that often with questionable tags, but this seemed like a multi-game absence from the start. We saw them play against Dallas without Terry Rozier. Do you expect the rotations to be similar tonight?
Yeah, pretty similar. And yeah, shout out to me. There was a little video that was Ashley Chamonix interviewing Steve Clifford that the Beats didn't even have, and found that he was getting an MRI. And I was willing to risk it all to say Rozier was out. But yeah, really tight rotation. And the headline here is LaMelo. We talked about this minutes limit. He's been playing low 30s. They let him go. Massive role, 23 drives, 23 potential assists. You see the triple double. Really good commentary from Steve Clifford after this game. This is the spot. This is, yeah. I said this a lot last year. If you could pick a team to play against, I would pick LaMelo against the Wizards. This is like the spot for him. I wanted to try to have like a spicy plant today, but you have to just take what the slate gives you. So yeah. I love LaMelo. Mark Williams was actually trending for more minutes. He was on a minutes limit as well. So he's in a pretty good spot here. And we know that the Wizards, Daniel Gafford gives up a lot of big lines to centers because he's all over the place. So yeah, really tight minutes. We saw some big lineups. They're going to play PJ Washington a little bit as a 3. Brandon Miller going to play a lot of 2, starting at the 2, full minutes there. But yeah, this is the game. I think the over-under is like 240. So yeah, just real big shootout. And it's probably going to be pretty highly owned, but for good reason.
Yeah, really tight rotation last game. Would expect the same this time out. All right, Clippers and Brooklyn in my backyard here in the city. A couple of good games in New York tonight. Terrence Mann questionable. Nice to see Terrence Mann show up on the injury report. We had talked last week about how it was just constant out tags, and for a guy who's been so durable throughout his career, it's been a difficult start to the season. I'm not sure if he'll be available tonight. I'm interested in your thoughts on that because this is the first time we've seen him pop up on the injury report. But if he is, he's a player that long-term is going to be an integral part of this rotation, and he's going to bring risk and downside minutes specifically to Russell Westbrook. So that's the player to keep an eye on if Terrence Mann is available to go. What are your thoughts on if we will see Terrence Mann tonight?
The Brooklyn native Terrence Mann is expected to play today, so expecting
Nice.
him out there off the bench should be pretty decent on minutes. And yeah, this raises a big question. You obviously have Mason Plumlee out with a knee sprain; he's going to miss a long time. So they are without a traditional backup center. So it's going to be. I think they might bring Diabate in there. He's played some center for them in garbage time in the preseason, so he's probably the favorite to play behind Zubats. Really good matchup against the Nets without Claxton. So Zoo could be in a really, really big spot without a true backup. We know PJ Tucker's played a lot of center. We know Terrence Mann has played center at times, highlighted by the Rudy Gobert series against Utah. So those guys will piece it together. But with the Westbrook Harden thing, their tracking stats were like so tight. Westbrook like edged him in potentials, in drives, in touch time, all that, and they were trending for full. This quote unquote
Yep.
not crazy minutes limit on James Harden was.
Yeah.
Not there. He was trending for full minutes. So I'm expecting big minutes out of them. I think this is going to really affect Bones Highland in a big way. He was trending for like 18 minutes. Again, this is without Man here. So
Yep.
I think Bones could be really, really cut down. Curious if the books line him at all. And then I think Norm will be generally unaffected. Certainly the minute ceiling is not going to be there. But yeah, Man should be pretty good to go. Guy's been pretty durable. He's been ramping up here. So I expect him to be, from a minutes perspective, probably like 80%.
Yeah, I'm interested to see on the minutes side just because we didn't see the questionable tags before. So, I'm kind of thinking he might end up like 16 to 22 instead of like where I think he'll normally be like more like 20 to 25. So 80% that tracks kind of with what I'm thinking. The other note here is this matchup is
Think did you cut out or did I lose you? We lost Dink. Hope he had something good to say, but he'll be back. I think we could move along here. I should mention the Clippers had a pretty bad defensive game, partly because the Knicks are really good on the glass. That's something to kind of keep an eye on there. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay. Let's move on to the net. There's Dink back.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying that the matchup is particularly good for them playing small, because
Mm-hmm.
the Nets are so accustomed to playing small with like Dorian Finney-Smith at center or Royce O'Neal at center. So you could still see these secondary like backup wings guards get their minutes a little bit more elevated in this matchup. The true test will be later on when they're against bigger teams, how they're going to play. All right, let's move to the Nets side of things. Lonnie Walker probable there. He's been listed with this left knee soreness, and he keeps just shooting through it. He's been great to start the season. Cam Johnson doubtful, so that's an upgrade, but still not encouraging that we'll have him tonight. Good that it's coming along a little bit. Nick Claxton still listed out here. What are your thoughts on the Nets in the absence of Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton once again?
And then they also downgraded Ben Simmons here to a Q, unless I'm tripping. Yeah, so he has a left hip soreness. Midday downgrades for Q are probably an out
That's not
tag.
good.
So especially for Ben. So probably starting Royce O'Neal, who plays freaking so many minutes in the starting lineup. So we'll have a pretty big projection on him if no Ben. Obviously, Spencer Dinwiddie's mids have been really, really hurt here with Ben. Now they're back. So he'll be back in the point guard role, run the offense. If you were quick enough, you could have got some pretty nice lines at plus money 5.5 assists on him. They were pretty good. Mikal was pretty good too as well. But yeah, full minutes here. So this is a spot to attack. I think that the Clippers defense will be vulnerable. They're playing a lot of new defensive schemes. They're putting Kawhi as more of an on-ball guy. Picked up the Randall assignment last game. So they have some changes to go. We know that Harden is not a very good defender. Westbrook as well. So yeah, pretty good spot to attack, despite how the stats may say that the Clippers have a pretty good defense. I think they're going to be kind of, 17th-ish if I had to put a number on it. So I think this is and the Nets are playing fast, really vulnerable around the basket. So another really good game. A lot of really good games from a overs game environment DFS standpoint.
My one concern here on the Nets is a lot of their stuff is sort of isolation centric with Cam Thomas and at times Mikal Bridges, and that's the defensive stuff that the Clippers should still be pretty good at with Kawhi and PG as kind of like one-on-one defenders. Add in Terrence Mann and his availability as well. So I'm not as enthusiastic about this Brooklyn side, but look, man, 54 shots between Mikal Bridges and Cam Thomas last game of their 101 shots total, which is a lot of shots to get up in a game. 45 threes. They are bombing away. So there are going to be some ceiling games. Cam Thomas last game, I have such a regrettable flag blank going with Drew Holiday when Cam Thomas was right there for me last game. Let's get into San Antonio and New York. On the San Antonio side, Devin Vassell listed doubtful, which I thought was encouraging, honestly, because the quotes from Pop before sounded like we were going to be without Vassell for a while. So seeing him doubtful already was like, okay, maybe it's not as bad. Maybe it's just another week or something like that. Keldon Johnson listed probable with that left wrist soreness. This last game against Indy was a complete wipeout, complete blowout. I will note that in the first half, Keldon Johnson was pretty tame in terms of his usage and deferred, but he came out in the third quarter and shot a bunch. I was wondering if the wrist soreness was anything to do with it, but it kind of quelled concerns when he came out much more aggressively in the third quarter. What are your thoughts on the Spurs tonight?
Yeah, we took a Wemby under. Really, really tough spot for him. The Knicks are rebounding lights out. So, and their interior defense is really, really strong. So, Wemby's interior scoring will be put to the test, and we hope he fails, given that we have an under on him. So, let's talk about this 152 they put up real quick. Pop has been, up until last game, he was a great sport. And anyone who knows Pop, he is in and out. He'll have his pressers sometimes in 30 seconds or less. He didn't even sit down for this presser. But while he was standing, he did say that only 2 players played well. That was Zach Collins and Keldon Johnson. So maybe some guys are kind of dialed back. We'll see what kind of leash Malachi Branham has on him today. But I expect Keldon, as you mentioned, to have a pretty big role. I think the matchup should be okay. He'll see a lot of Quentin Grimes, which I'm not worried about. Quentin Grimes doesn't play that much anyways. But I think this is a decent spot for Keldon and should be full minutes. This wrist soreness thing, we saw him get dinged up in a Toronto game, played, okay before they got blown out.
Knicks, nothing listed on the injury report there. RJ Barrett, not on the injury report. He's been questionable a bunch and sat some games and played through another game. So it looks like the Knicks are pretty squared away. Let's move to the Cavs and OKC. The Cavs will be without Isaac Okoro once again with left knee soreness. The rest of their starters all off the injury report. No Donovan Mitchell, no no Jared Allen, no Darius Garland, no Karis LeVert. Those guys are all off the injury report. So looking at good news there. They haven't played in a couple days. They're one of these teams that had an off day the other day, the Monday slate when there were lots of games. So they've had a little bit of time to kind of collect their breath after a nice win over the weekend against Golden State. What are your expectations for the Cleveland rotation in Oklahoma City tonight?
So Bickerstaff said they were going to still be on a minutes limit. They meaning Jared Allen and Darius Garland. So I think they're going to be 90% where they were. I haven't looked at their minutes yet, but I would probably say like 33 for Garland, 29, 30 for Jared, who's played a lot at times. We've seen Jared Allen play like upper 30s, even off injuries. But yeah, they should be good to go. I expect this defense to be pretty strong. They're going to be certainly tested against OKC, who could be shorthanded as well. But yeah, I think this thing could be pretty tight. We'll see how Strus holds up. Strus held up really well minutes wise last game. There was a little bit of concern that his minutes could come down. Certainly, no Okoro was a big part of that.
Yeah.
So he's in a pretty good spot against a team that at times could give up a lot of 3-pointers.
Oklahoma City side, 2 questionable tags to note: Lou Dort and Yushman Jiang, both listed questionable here. What are your thoughts on the availability for those 2 Thunder wing players?
Yeah, hip strain for Dort. He did close. I think he had a fall late in the game because him and Kaysen were kind of closing over Giddey. As well, Giddey's kind of in trouble, so I think he's got a shot to miss this game. I don't think Ousmane Dieng's really a big deal. They'll just play Aaron Wiggins and play a little bit smaller. They should be okay. They might bring in for the matchup. I don't think so. I think they'll probably just roll. I don't think they'll bring in Olivier Sarr. But I guess the Dort's the headline, right? A, that helps Donovan Mitchell's matchup. B, Cason Wallace season. I would say Cason Wallace will be basically a lock to start if Dort can't go. They usually start Aaron Wiggins in this spot, like almost every time.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I think that Cason Wallace, every comment out of Mark Daigneault's mouth has been just glowing. So I think that they go that way. I think they're going to start.
The matchup helps it too. I mean, the matchup is really two scoring guards as opposed to scoring wings. So the matchup helps it from that perspective as well. Size wise, Cason can absolutely compete there.
If you're willing to put a rookie on Stephen Curry in his first career start, why would you think he's not starting? That's kind of where I'm at with it. As you mentioned, 99% of the time or 100% of the time, we would expect Aaron Wiggins to start, but I kind of think it's going to be Cason.
Yep. All right, let's move to Detroit and Milwaukee. On the Detroit side of things, Alec Burks listed out, so no confusion over his tags. He's been doubtful or questionable the games before, straight out this time. Jalen Duren listed questionable here. This was another one of these late scratches that we got last week or earlier this week, I guess, with Jalen Duren out and Marvin Bagley starting last game. Ankle soreness is the culprit here. What are your thoughts on Jalen Duren's availability tonight? I should note Jaden Ivey also listed out tonight for Detroit.
Yep. So they're a little bit short here without Joe Harris as well. But yeah, Duren, he had when starting lineups were due, injury report comes out on the NBA official report, and it says Duren questionable. That is a red flag. He's not playing. So Marvin Bagley hooks. You got some nice 10.5 lines. He did not hit. That was pure pain that Lefko and I know too much about. But other than that, yeah, I think Duren's going to go. It's kind of just a soreness thing, something he hurt last week. So I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play. Not confident at all. Don't quote me on that. We're not going to be betting anything that he is or isn't playing. But yeah, I just want to mention Cade Cunningham. The role is insane. He's first in the NBA in pick and roll handler possessions, third in the whole league in half court offensive possessions behind. That's per game too, behind Embiid and Luka. So he is all the way up there for usage. And then we're seeing Killian Hayes play a lot better. Really good commentary from Monty Williams saying that he's kind of realizing his potential. Isaiah Stewart playing a lot of minutes here, picking up Kevin Durant a couple games ago. And yeah, Marcus Sasser. Got a shot on Marcus Sasser. The guy's just completely cooking. And has he iced Jaden Ivey already? It feels like he kind of has.
It'll be interesting to see that play out because the Pistons organization, that'll be interesting to see if it's a clash at all between front office and coaching, which obviously they've invested a lot in Monty Williams here, but they also invested a lot in Jaden Ivey as a lottery pick. And so it'll be interesting to see that play out. Obviously, Ivey's injury is clearing a pathway even more for Marcus Sasser right now. Would also just note that, yes, Bagley moves into that starting spot if Duren is unable to go, but they are very comfortable playing Isaiah Stewart at center here. You can see the combined minutes from Bagley and Weissman just get to 35 in this game against Golden State, who's a team that's willing to play on the smaller side of things. So maybe that changes against a Milwaukee team that's a little bit bigger, but they're comfortable with Stu at the center spot. And Stu at the center spot is what you want from a fantasy perspective. That's when he gets the rebounding unleashed, which we saw kind of last game against Golden State. Yeah, no other thoughts there other than Killian Hayes has played much, much better. So agree with Monty.
I'll add real quick on Weissman. There was a comment from Monty saying that he wasn't in a rhythm yet. We saw him get the first half rotation, play kind of long. He had a really long second quarter rotation, and then got cut out as they went, oh my God, this the tightest of the tightest second half rotations with Yamude getting in there for who had a really good game, 15 points to get super high.
Yep. Milwaukee side of things, no Chris Middleton tonight. They've pegged this one as an injury management spot for Chris. So how do you expect Milwaukee to cope with the absence of Chris Middleton?
It'll certainly be Jay Crowder in the starting lineup. We've seen Jay Crowder really, really cut out Malik Beasley. So now Malik Beasley doesn't have to compete with Jay Crowder anymore. We'll see if Marshawn Beauchamp could cut him down. If Beasley gets cut down by Beauchamp today, they might just pull him out of the starting lineup at this point. It's just not going well. Too many guards are just pounding the Bucks with their defense overall. But Brook Lopez's minutes were down again. We kind of bet into this because there was some commentary from Griffin saying that they were going to, watch spots for Brook. They wanted to explore smaller stuff, and it got Portis 26 minutes, which we'd like for an over. So that was a good bet from us. Keep an eye on Brook's minutes. I think they might be coming down. But I think that mostly sums it up. And again, Middleton's on the minutes limit. We'll see if he can get up to 23, 24 tomorrow against the Pacers, I think. Yeah.
We've also seen a little bit more overlap with Portis and Lopez the last few games, which is an encouraging sign for both of their fantasy values going forward. It's just one of these things with Adrian Griffin that hopefully the realization is I just got to get my best players out on the floor, period, and figure out ways to do it. But would note, the Lopez minutes are definitely something to keep an eye on tonight on the front end of a back-to-back, because he might be one of these veteran players that, well, as we've talked about with the Warriors and different things, that instead of the 34 to 36 for Steph, we've been talking about 31 to 33 this year. It might be instead of, the 29 to 32 for Brook, that it's 26 to 29 on these back-to-back situations as they're trying to kind of manage these guys through games. All right.
And should mention really bad rim defense from Detroit. We talked about how they were good starting out.
Yep.
They haven't faced rim heavy teams like the Warriors, the Suns, and they're getting pounded at the rim without Duren.
Duren's absence is the big problem there. For sure. Bagley and Weissman protecting the rim is not the same. All right, let's move to Lakers and Houston. On the Lakers side of things, getting a little bit healthier on the reserve players. They were really shorthanded against Miami on Monday night. Jackson Hayes listed questionable. Rui Hachimura listed as available, clearing concussion protocol. Anthony Davis, unfortunately, listed questionable with that left abductor / hip spasm. We saw Davis leave this game early after he was off to a pretty impactful start. He's been really great this season, but this is the bugaboo with Anthony Davis, obviously, and especially in these games where, because they've been thinner, Jared Vanderbilt all season, so on and so forth, they've asked him to play more center. And more center just means kind of putting your body on the line a little bit more, and this is kind of what happens. So what are your expectations on what we see from Anthony Davis tonight, if we see Anthony Davis tonight, and do you think we see Jackson Hayes as well?
Yeah, everything we're seeing on Davis is that he's in. He said he wanted to play after Monday. They were a little precautious not putting him back out there. With Anthony Davis, you want to be, but hey, when you're playing a guy 38, 39 minutes, this is going to happen. So they kind of asked for it. But yeah, we'll see if his minutes are as good. Probably kind of think no. We took an under on his points, which I think is a really, really good bet. AD coming off an injury. But yeah, expect him to go. You mentioned, I mean, they were thin. D'Angelo Russell got ejected. They were closing with Cam Reddish, Wood, LeBron, Reeves, and Taurean Prince, who had to play a lot coming off an injury last week as well. So yeah, we'll see what kind of minutes Rui has. Concussion for him, I think he could play a decent bit. We took a Wood under, and call us AIG because we got bailed out. Oh, I'm sorry, over. Yeah, we got bailed out on that one because it was looking dead before Anthony Davis got hurt. But
which is surprising given the lack of depth that they had. As you can see here with how tight these minutes are, literally any extra body is going to help a lot in terms of smoothing things out for them. So we know Rui is one extra body, assuming they have AD. Hopefully Jackson Hayes would be another extra body. They'd be comfortable kind of mixing him. Then they have 10, and it's like, okay, now you can like ease off guys in general. So if they have those 10, you might see, as you alluded to with Anthony Davis, you might not see those 38s. You might see more like 34, 35. We'll see if the Lakers can afford to do that. They're in Houston tonight. Houston, we have Atari Eason for the first time all season. He is listed as available. He's been dealing with that lower left leg stress reaction. That's the big injury news here, along with Amen Thompson listed out. Amen Thompson's missed the last few games. They've played really well in Amen Thompson's absence. Hasn't been an issue for them with Aaron Holiday filling that role. What are your thoughts on Tari Eason's return? Who does it impact? How many minutes would you expect for Tari Eason tonight?
Yeah, so stress fracture to his leg. That is normally a situation where teams are very careful with minutes. So we're not going to give him full. Initially, we had him at 15, I think. I actually want to bring him down a little bit. I don't think he has any ceiling on minutes here. And, Jason Tate's been great. Jason Tate's been really subbing in anywhere from the front court that they need. He's been very, another guy any coach loves for his versatility there. I think Jabari Smith's minutes are fine. I think Alfred Şengün generally unaffected because he's been playing so well. But yeah, we'll see. Tate would be affected. I think Jeff Green probably goes bye-bye. And then, just maybe a little bit of minutes, maybe just not as much minute ceiling from Şengün. We've seen they like this Jabari Smith, Tari Eason front court. And Dylan Brooks has been playing a lot too, so he could have a little bit of ceiling taken off him. So yeah, really not affecting anyone in particular besides really Jeff Green and Jay Sean to a degree. But I think it does take a little ceiling off of kind of everyone because, Tari's a freaking baller.
Yeah, we'll see also if it does impact Şengün in any way, shape, or form. Man, that line 17, 8, and 12 in 26 minutes. That is a big boy line from Alperen Şengün.
Great defense too.
He's having a bit of a breakout season. Yeah. All right, let's move to Miami and Memphis. Miami side of things, as always, Miami I think gave an injury tag status for every player on the roster. So to go through the ones that are meaningful here. Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler listed available and probable, respectively. Haywood Highsmith and Jaime Jaquez and Kevin Love and Duncan Robinson all listed available. The G League guys are out, the Hamptons, the Jovic, whatnot. So it's really this Jimmy Butler probable tag that we're always a little bit nervous about whenever we get probable tags from Miami. But they must have gotten some feedback from the league about their injury reporting because they are just giving literally everybody on the roster a tag. I think the only guy with that one is Hero and Lowry. I think everybody else has a tag today. Still without Caleb Martin as well. Do you think we see Kevin Love enter the rotation anytime soon, or do you think this is the new normal for Miami?
Yeah, new normal. Damn you, they're just. I hope no one has to print these injury reports. You're just wasting ink. For whatever reason, but yeah, come on, man. I don't really. Highsmith locked. Jaime Jaquez locked in the rotation. We're seeing Duncan Robinson overlap, and then Thomas Bryant running right behind Bam. Bam's been freaking great. Tough matchup.
Yeah,
Memphis interior defense is still held up despite having like no bodies, which we'll get to now.
Yeah, talking about that, no Steven Adams, no Brandon Clark, of course. John Conchar listed doubtful tonight. No Xavier Tillman, he's out with left knee soreness. No Derrick Rose, no Vince Williams, no Jake LaRavia. So who's left for Memphis tonight?
The busy bee himself, Bismack Biyombo. They said that background on this. If you didn't follow the news, he was starting all of a sudden. They're like, oh, what the hell happened here? Xavier Tillman's down bad. Turns out he's just down because he was injured. He's not playing today. And then after the game, Taylor Jenkins said they had a game plan to play full 48. They wanted a big man against 8, and they plugged in Biz. I am not confident they start Biyombo here. I think it was just like, okay, we have a game plan. Let's implement it, sort of from a, screen setting, rebounding standpoint. Biyombo are similar to Tillman. Tillman's obviously a way better shooter, but I think that's why. So I kind of think they're going to go back to the small lineup here. Now that they have time to game plan, I wrote Biyombo for the starter. I kind of think it's going to be they go smaller here. I don't have a great read in this situation. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Santi Aldama getting in the start.
Yeah,
we know that they've been comfortable doing that. We saw him start last year when Jaren Jackson was out for injury, so it would be a little awkward to do that, playing kind of two power forwards there. But I think it makes sense, and you want to get a little more spacing out there against Miami, which also makes sense. So I think it's like real tight between. I would probably rank it honestly. I think Aldama's the favorite. Then Biz right behind him, and then David Roddy right behind him. But should be pretty strong minutes here for the front court. They're real thin, and a matchup that's been better. Miami's interior defense has been significantly worse than it was last year after a really good 22-23 front court season on defense.
Agree with you on Aldama and Biz being the two favorites to start. Not sure who I'd give the edge there. I think maybe Biz just having started the last game, but I think they're pretty close. And should also note here, Luke Kennard finally got the stroke back. He was off to a really, really tough start shooting the ball this season. Gets off to a rebound performance last game in Memphis's first win. We'll see if the great shooting that he had last year with Memphis if he can refine that form, because they really need it on the scoring side of things. Okay, let's move to New Orleans and Minnesota. On the New Orleans side of things, it's a sad injury report, honestly. So CJ McCollum, we know, is out with the collapsed lung for a period of time. Trey Murphy, we know, is out with the knee issue that he's been dealing with. Najee Marshall, we know, out. Jose Alvarado, out. New additions. Zion Williamson, for personal reasons, he's out. And then Herb Jones listed questionable with the right fibula contusion. I mean, if they are down in some way, shape, or form, McCollum, Murphy, Zion, Najee, Herb, and Alvarado, that's 6 of their top 9 players from last year. So things are potentially really thin here. We already know that 5 of those guys are out, and it's just whether Herb can play or not. So what are you expecting from the Pelicans tonight as they go up against one of the league's best defenses in the Minnesota Timberwolves?
I'd be pretty surprised if Herb sits. I feel pretty confident Herb's going to play. Just kind of took a shot to the leg. They didn't even need to examine him. So just a little soreness from him. He's got to go out there. He's going to get a really tough assignment. And Anthony Edwards, which has been a bit of a mixed bag. Ant got him once, and then Herb kind of held him in check in the 2 games last year. After that, we know Jordan Hawkins is starting. We know Jordan Hawkins is going to shoot the hell out of the ball from a volume standpoint, and he's going to probably play 40 minutes here just because they're running out of bodies. Then the next question. We saw last time it was Matt Ryan starting when they were missing Zion. Do they do it again? Are they comfortable doing that with Cat and Gobert? I think they are. So I think it would be a starting lineup of Brandon Ingram, Jordan Hawkins, Herb, Matt Ryan, and Valanciunas. And then we haven't seen him run Larry Nance. We saw this a lot last year. He was running as a 4 a ton. Next to Joe Val, when they had Billy Hernan Gomez, when they had Jackson Hayes. They were very comfortable using him there, and they haven't really been so far. Matchup and situation certainly calls for it here. So I think that he's a candidate to start as well. And then Dyson Daniels, I think, has to play more. He'll sub in behind Herb, I think. There's a chance he starts. I think that's a little too small to go that route. And they seem to like him off the bench there. But so the real tight situation. And Brandon Ingram is now in hell. He would have probably died. We saw Zion get this matchup last year. He get the McDaniels matchup last year. Actually cooked it for a career high 43. And now Brandon Ingram's gonna have to deal with Jaden McDaniels. So big role coming, but really tough matchup for him with all that length and 6'10", 7'3" wingspan. Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, and in the words of Mike Gallagher, shout out to me for Jordan Hawkins starting last game. The note here with that starting spot is just basically without CJ McCollum, they view Brandon Ingram as their point guard. So the things Dyson Daniels does that help out are better when Ingram is off the floor. In terms of having some secondary ball handling and stuff like that, they need floor spacing in the absence of CJ McCollum. That is why we saw Hawkins. That's why Mike's guessing at Matt Ryan. I think the matchup could get that Larry Nance, but I agree that we haven't seen it this year, so it's a little bit tough to project. Minnesota side of things, nothing to really tackle here. No Jordan McLaughlin, but I think otherwise they're quick and easy. We can go past them. Phoenix.
Actually, I want to hit them real quick because I want to talk some Cat. Cat's down bad, you guys. He's the self-proclaimed best big man shooter ever. With guys with his volume, he's dead last in efficiency on spot up shooting. He is not aggressive. He's playing really poorly. He's being outplayed by Naz Reid. Is he gonna close out games? Like, he's been so bad. It's just not having any impact on offense like he used to. He's been really, really like kind of bad to the media with like really bad answers and stuff. I heard a pod that was kind of going off on that, but yeah, Cat's in a really, really bad spot. Maybe he gets better, but clearly just not going well for him. Just wanted to add him there.
Well, anybody who's owned a cat knows that they're temperamental creatures just naturally, and you have to be patient with them, and you have to kind of facilitate their best moods. And so I would like to see a little bit more of Cat on the floor without Anthony Edwards, without Rudy Gobert, running a bunch of pick and roll. You can use it with Mike Conley. Get him some touches that are more comfortable in the flow of the offense. I think right now, Gobert's the primary screener. The ball's in the hands of Ant a lot. And as a result, Cat's just a floor spacer. And like he's skill wise, he's so much more than that. I think you need to facilitate that by some of these second unit lineups, like early rotations for Cat out, bring him back in with the second unit, get him staggered away from Ant, staggered away from Rudy Gobert, and let him play center and get a bunch of those touches. So hopefully we'll see that facilitated, but hasn't been the case. They're playing really well as a team, so it's hard to argue with what Chris Finch is doing.
Number one defense, and their half court defense is 10 percentage points better than last year's number one. They're just locking teams the hell down right now.
Yep. All right, Phoenix and Chicago. On the Phoenix side of things, we finally get a questionable tag for Bradley Beal, despite the report on the opening night of the season, which was 2 weeks ago, that Bradley Beal's back spasms were improving and maybe we'd actually see him go that night. He has been listed out straight every game since. We get a questionable tag today. Do we see Bradley Beal tonight? We know they're already without Devin Booker.
Yeah, it looks like it. He did some shooting yesterday, looked pretty good. So I think he's going to start. We'll see what kind of minutes limits are on him. So if he starts, this is interesting. And I actually kind of think they're going to start Eric Gordon. We saw Grayson Allen was subbing in behind Beal before he got hurt in the preseason. So, and Eric Gordon's been really good. His drives are up, his shooting, we saw the 8 assists. He was staggering behind Kevin Durant to run that offense as well. So Eric Gordon's had a really big role. I think he's kind of earned it. So I would expect the starting lineup of Eric Gordon, Bradley Beal, KD Bates-Diop, who's run away with this job, I think, especially when you kind of need a little bit more size here, and you could get the DeMar DeRozan matchup here. So, and then obviously Nurk would be the starting center. Grayson Allen still pretty decent role off the bench. Yuta Watanabe has been in there. I haven't looked at Phoenix's minutes yet, but I'm gonna want to nuke Kogi. I mean, if he's not starting, what good does he do, right? Like he's out there to defend, and if you're gonna put him in the second unit, it feels like he can get really cut down. So I think Kogi could be, kind of almost last man in-ish, is him and Jordan Goodman there.
All right. Chicago side of things, Alex Caruso probable, Patrick Williams probable. No other tidbits here. Any other notes for the Bulls? Nope.
Nah, we can move on.
Okay. Let's move to Toronto and Dallas. On the Toronto side, Precious Achiuwa listed questionable. He's missed a number of games in a row. We've seen Jakob Poeltl's minute ceiling correlate upward in the games without Precious Achiuwa. Any read on his availability tonight and how that shakes out for Dallas? Or for Toronto?
Practice. So he should be good to go. I expect him to probably fill most of those center minutes. Are they going to run small against? We know teams like to run switch schemes against Dallas. I don't really think the Derek Lively tag impacts how Darker will run this, but yeah, expect him back. And minutes have been really, really strong. Scotty Barnes has been awesome. He's been shooting the ball great. He's second in the league in off dribble jumper efficiency behind Anthony Edwards among like top 40, 50-ish qualifiers. So he's been really, really shooting the ball well on the jumper side of things, coming off a 30 ball. And then OG is going to be out there a lot. They're probably going to match him with Luka. So that'll be a fun matchup if you like watching defense.
All right, on the Dallas side of things, we've got Derek Lively listed questionable along with Maxi Kleber here. That would certainly be a hit to the big man rotation for Dallas. What are your reads on their availability tonight?
Yeah, I think Lively might miss this one. Getting added a little bit late. We'll see. Kid's been playing guys pretty aggressively here, so I think he's got a shot to miss. Would probably go to Dwight Powell in the spot. They kind of have to, I would say. So his minutes could come up. We'll see if they'd run Grant as a center a little bit more. I think they'd be willing to do that here. And then they're playing these guys minutes, man. Like they're willing to go all the way on minutes. Kid's not messing around. Luka has had success against OG, but on big minutes, he was playing like 40 minutes, and it wasn't like Luka like output. So really tough matchup against OG. It always is. So maybe it's Kyrie night. Kyrie getting probably the Schroeder matchup. Could expect pretty tight minutes. And their rim defense has been interesting. They are not coming up volume, but they're getting killed when people are down there. So if Siakam and Scotty and Pirtle can get down there, they could probably put up a good line.
All right, Golden State and Denver, another one of these really exciting matchups on this slate. Golden State's injury report. No Draymond Green listed out for personal reasons. He was questionable the game before, but it was a homecoming game in Detroit. I felt pretty good he was going to play that one. And then Gary Payton, the second listed questionable here with an illness. Kind of a big deal if they're down Draymond Green and Gary Payton in this spot, two primary defenders for them. What's your read on Payton's availability tonight, and who do you expect to start in the absence of Draymond Green?
So I think they really like Chris Paul off the bench, and I think you're going to want to have some additional size out there. So I kind of think it's going to be Jonathan Kuminga in the starting lineup, who's been spotty, hasn't really been playing too well. But the headline here, if Gary Payton can't play, if Andrew Wiggins can't get to 30 minutes today, like I don't even know what to say. The guy just can't close. He's shooting the ball poorly. He's not as aggressive on offense. He looks like a shell of himself. I'm not sure what's going on there with him. Certainly Steph, who's been freaking awesome. They're not getting anybody helping. Nobody scored more than 20. Dario scored 20, and I think Kuminga scored 19, and nobody else has scored more than 18 besides Steph. Like it's like a one-man wrecking crew, and Steph's been magnificent to start the year. But Looney's minutes are safer. We know they're going to need the big, especially now. So Looney's going to play, and they're going to probably give him as many minutes as he can. I think that I don't know if they're comfortable playing Dario against Jokic here, so maybe we see some Trey Jackson Davis. We'd want to give him some minutes. I haven't looked there since the Draymond news. But yeah, I think those guys will kind of fill in. We'll see Pods kind of fill in if we'll probably put him in there if GP2's out. Certainly would be upping Moses Moody's minutes as well.
Yeah. Basically, we've talked all season long about how there's a downside to the closing units. Outside of basically Steph and Dre and maybe Clay was maybe solidish as a 2.5 out of the 5 spots to close. Well, if you remove Dre from the equation, that pool narrows in terms of who you'd consider as like very likely to close. Now, this matchup, Looney might be needed more against Jokic, so you might just sub him into Dre's spot. But there's more room, especially if Gary Payton, he's in that group that could close, right? So if he's out of the mix, now you're down to like Wiggins, Clay, Kuminga, most likely, and CP3 is 4 guys for 3 spots, right? Like is in terms of how we're thinking about this for 2 spots with Steph, Clay, and Looney in this case over Dre. So much better opportunity for a ceiling minutes performance from someone like Wiggins or CP3 or Clay or Kuminga if you start to remove some of these pieces who are like legit candidates to close in these spots, which, to this point, I don't think Moody and Saric and those guys are really legit candidates to compete on the closing side. Okay. Denver side of things, still without Jamal Murray with that right hamstring strain. It's going to be a while for him. It sounds like Nikola Jokic popping up on the injury report. I've noted this before with Jokic. It was the back stuff was a week ago, and now it's been wrist stuff this last week. I think there's going to be a missed game at some point, but I think we'll get a questionable tag on the day that he misses, whenever it is. So I'm not super concerned about these probable tags, but I just should note that he's taken on a big workload. He's doing everything he can with it, and making another MVP campaign built around his performance. But back and wrist now, 2 different things in the last 2 weeks popping up as probable on the injury report. Just something to kind of keep an eye on with Jokic.
Yeah, and no Draymond here, so Denver could probably score some points, certainly. And just want to highlight Jokic's role without Murray. Touches 123. That's up from 95 before Monday. 70 front court touches, 53. 19 elbow touches, up from 10. 21 potential assists, up from 13. Just every role is up, and 6.4 minutes of touch time is like a point guard. He was running the point, and Malone said after the game they're gonna let him run point. He should be like minus 140 for a triple double. Like, he's gonna get it. So I would hit that if you haven't hit it yet. I mentioned it in matchups. Just the role's gonna be huge, especially no Draymond now. The scoring is a little bit of a concern against Looney, I would say, but who cares? He's gonna score 10, right? So
yeah,
I'm expecting a big role from him. And then the next thing, how much is Julian Strawther gonna play? Every time that dude touches the floor, he smashes. So I think he's earned a role. I think he could certainly cut into Colin Gillespie a little bit here. Again, you don't need ball handling if you got Jokic out there, and they wanted to use Gillespie with Jokic anyways. So who cares? So I won't be surprised if Jokic substitutes as more of a guard, weirdly enough, to kind of affect the guard rotation a little bit more than you might think, considering Jamal Murray's out. But yeah, pretty interesting spot. I don't know if you could play Julian Strawther on a 14 gamer. But, if you're playing showdown stuff or something like that, it could be interesting. And should mention MPJ has been really, really good, shooting the ball great. Minutes have been strong, rebounding the ball really well.
Yeah, Strawther provides some extra length over Gillespie that might be useful against a Warriors offense that relies on a lot of passing and a lot of screening. So this is actually not that bad of a spot for Strawther as well. The other thing I did about Strawther, man, when he was cooking the other night, it's the depth of those threes. It's the stuff that we talk about with like Eric Gordon and some of these guys. When you're launching them from 3 feet behind the 3-point line, you're stretching out that defense in a way that just opens up lanes for everybody else in such a significant way. Guys that we've talked about this before, Eric Gordon, Kristaps Porzingis, these guys who launch long threes, their offenses tend to have hidden value from it. So just another note on Strawther, because when I was watching the highlights on that one, I was like, man, the depth of these threes that he's taking comfortably, pull-ups, off screens, dribble handoffs, like very comfortable in all sorts of iterations, is really encouraging for kind of the future of this Denver offense as well.
Yeah. He goes up quick, man. I mean, he gets his jumpers off so fast. The dude's just born to score. I love it.
Yep. All right. Last game of the slate to cover, Portland and Sacramento. Portland side of things still without Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson. And now they've lost Robert Williams for a significant amount of time as well with a knee sprain. Really unfortunate for Robert Williams. The knees, man, they just cannot stay healthy. What do you expect to see from Portland in the absence of the Time Lord?
Yeah, they're going to play small. We saw them when they sat Time Lord out in the back-to-back. It was Jabari Walker filling in as kind of the backup 4-5. Certainly Tamani Kamara is capable as a backup 4, so I would expect those guys to benefit the most. Yeah, really tough for Time Lord. Going back to the playoffs, like, why did he play through that, man? When he's playing through that leg injury and just like limping around the court, like, that's just I don't know if that's why, but in hindsight, it looks like that was a really bad decision. But yeah, Malcolm Brogdon rides again. Quotes from Chauncey Billups said he is playing him too much, which certainly makes sense considering. But I kind of knew he was going to play a lot. But yeah, I think he's going to be in a pretty good spot. The role is huge here. Last 2 games, 20.5 potential assists, 15.5 drives, 7.7 minutes of touchdown. That's alpha stuff from him. Expect that to continue. And then got to mention Shane Sharp. Dude hasn't started every game. He's leading the NBA in minutes, which is just bananas. The guy is playing 40 like every night right now. He has since he's been starting, he's got like a 2.5 minute cushion on the rest of the league. Overtime aided that a little bit, but yeah, huge role. 5.5 minutes of touch time, 34 front court touches, even driving 15 times a game has been up. So he is taking on one of the biggest roles really in the NBA. Should play a freaking ton tonight, and especially if they're going to thin out. And played, Jabari as a 4-5, so he could play really huge minutes here.
Yeah, I feel like one of these contenders needs to swoop in and rescue Malcolm Brogdon before we know what's going to happen. Like, you cannot play Malcolm Brogdon 36 plus minutes a night for like 3 weeks. We know what happens. It ends up in being listed on the injury report questionable for like 6 weeks in a row. So it would be really great if a contender could like swoop in and save Malcolm Brogdon's body and have him in the playoffs, because Malcolm Brogdon's a really, really good basketball player that's very good in the playoffs as well because of his ability to drive and get to the rim and not turn the ball over. I am a huge Malcolm Brogdon fan. It is painful for me. Like, I have none of him in best ball this year because I thought the injury thing, that not clearing the medical check by the Clippers, was like a really big red flag. Now he's out here playing 38 minutes a game. I need him on a contender, and I need him playing 25 minutes a game and doing his thing in that kind of primary bench role. This stuff of like leading one of the worst teams in the league for 38 minutes, it's not going to end well. It's going to end. It's going to end with some ankle issues. I can already foresee it. All right, Kings side of things. De'Aaron Fox, speaking of ankles, still out with the right ankle sprain. Trey Lyles still out with the left calf strain. This is a spot that there are big flashing warning signs about what this rotation might look like after Mike Brown's commentary after the 2-game sweep in Houston, where they got wrecked in both games. So what are your thoughts on what we can expect from Sacramento tonight?
Yeah, so let me go with this. This is if you read matchups, I take notes for quotes and stuff because I'm a crazy person. But look at these notes I got on Brown. Look at that. Look at all those notes. He was going off. His team got completely wrecked. The big quote to me that stuck out was that basically everyone besides Fox and Sabonis is on notice. He said, quote, everyone gets paid money, and kind of mumbled a little bit and then said nobody's position on this team is sacred. He's hot, and the only players he talked up after this game were Keon Ellis and Kessler Edwards. Everyone's on notice here. Can Davion lose minutes? Can Keegan lose minutes? He was really bad defensively in the last game. It's wild here. So this is obviously, he's talking to his team. He said he needs to take some time. He said he wants to take 24 hours before he does anything. But Kevin Huerter on red alert here, red velvet on red alert for his starting lineup. So we'll be watching that. If you're quick, maybe you can get some stales. We took a Chris Duarte line that was a little sweaty, getting close to garbage time. Didn't play true garbage time. Shout out to Jordan Ford for checking in. But yeah, look at these minutes are not garbage time. All these dudes did play in the first half. He was just going nuts. He does this from time to time too. So yeah, they need to bounce back. Certainly the spot to do it. We know the Blazers are really bad defensively, so really wide range of outcomes. It's got to be the Sabonis show, right? DeAndre Ayton's really bad defender, so I expect a heavy dose of Sabonis.
All right, 14 games under 1 hour. We did it, Mike. I feel great about the show, especially great with Adam Lefko joining in the chat. So shout out to all of you in chat. I see you. Appreciate you guys day in and day out following along with us. As always, if you enjoy this free content that we are delivering, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, whether you want to press, whether you want to hold down, whether you want to firmly push, whether you want to gently caress that like button, however your mouse clicks best for you, feed those clicks into the algorithm. It helps feed our families, and we'll keep feeding you the NBA injury information and analysis you need to set your lineups in DFS, season-long fantasy, make your prop bets, your spread bets, so on, so forth. If you're interested in any of our content behind the paywall, check out establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more information about our packages on the prop side or on the DFS side of things. I will be behind the paywall today at 5 o'clock Eastern with Gary Hartman, breaking down this 14-game slate, talking about good chalk, bad chalk, contrarian, leverage spots, all the good stuff you need to make your DFS tournament lineups. We hope to see you there at 5 o'clock. We will be back on this channel again tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern, for another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report analysis. Enjoy the games tonight. A lot of good ones. Great night in the NBA. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.